Now, Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry says over 300 Palestinians have been killed after the Israeli military carried out a number of attacks overnight. I'm joined now by Dr. Farod Sidwar, who's at the Nasser Medical Complex in Khan Yunis. Thank you so much for joining us. What have you witnessed overnight?
So just utter carnage and destruction overnight. I was here in Gaza a year ago during the peak of the fighting in Khan Yunis, and the mass casualties back then looked exactly like the mass casualty that I saw today. Mostly children, the other half are mostly women, and occasionally there's a man, but I'm pretty sure the man has nothing to do with any of this that's going on. I did 6 operations overnight. Half of them were in small children, so probably 6 and below. I wasn't exactly sure their ages, but it's probably about 6 and below. Most of them are going to go on to die, unfortunately. I'm told, I don't know for sure, but I'm told that about 40 bodies were brought to the morgue directly. But yeah, it was just utter carnage, as usual, when you drop bombs on tents. That's what happens.
Was there any warning that this was coming?
Not that was given to me directly, but and not that I don't think our NGO knew about it, because they would have warned us. But no, I don't believe so.
In terms of your ability to act, you said you've been there a year ago. You've been there for a little while in your current stint there. What level of supplies are reaching Gaza in general, but your hospital in particular?
In general, food is becoming more and more scarce. I actually haven't eaten meat since the first day I was here, which was March 6th. And that's not to complain, it's just to point it out. We've been eating rice and lentils every day, and we're eating better than anybody else in the Gaza Strip. We have money. There's just no protein is available. Clean water is also not available. But actually, before this mass casualty event, the emergency room in the hospital was starting to get overwhelmed by gastroenteritis cases, just because, again, nobody has any ability to desalinate water to get clean water of any kind. So diarrheal disease, nausea, vomiting is getting to be so severe that actually we had a patient's heart stop because of it in the ICU 2 nights ago. And thankfully, she's still alive at the moment. But again, she's going to go on to die because of the situation. In terms of the hospital, right now, the hospital that I'm at, Nasser Medical Complex, has surgical supplies. But just one incident like this would overwhelm any hospital in the United States. I was a resident during the Boston Marathon bombing, and that it was an utter disaster. And it was 1/10 of what we saw here today, and what we'll probably see twice today, probably 3 times the next day. So it's impossible for any hospital system to keep up with this, even in the first world.
The Prime Minister's office, Benjamin Netanyahu's office, said that this act overnight was due in part to Hamas's, quote, repeated refusal to release our hostages. What view do you have when you witness the response that yields that towards both sides in this? Can you see arguments on both sides or not?
Well, I actually also want the hostages released. And I think if Benjamin Netanyahu wanted the hostages released, he would have just continued with the hostage deal, which is what the hostage families have been begging him to do. The ceasefire between Hamas and Israel it's explicit. It was published in the Times of Israel and in other places. It's very clear. There was to be a 40-something, I forget, maybe 42-day phase 1, and then phase 2 was supposed to start. The Israelis have not participated meaningfully in the negotiations over phase 2. And instead, they've said they want to extend phase 1, which just means Hamas will release all of the hostages and get nothing in return. Of course, they're not going to agree to that. It's ridiculous. I'm a doctor. I don't want people taken hostage, and I don't want babies killed like happened today. But that's not how anything works. If the Israelis want their hostages back, I shouldn't say the Israelis. If Benjamin Netanyahu's government wants their hostages back, they know exactly how to get them back. It's to continue the deal that would have brought them back. And this is the exact opposite of that. Starving everyone in Gaza means you're starving the hostages too. That's not complicated.
And Dr. Sidwar, the other question, I guess, throughout, but also this morning, is proportionality and your assessment of the scale of the damage relative to the potential reward, if that's the right word, of the sort of action that we've seen?
Well, proportionality is a full of military action, from what I understand. If the use of military force is supposed to be proportional to the political gain, that's just called terrorism. Whether it's proportional or not doesn't really matter. But again, if the Israelis want their hostages back, if the Israeli government wants the hostages back, all they have to do is listen to the hostage families, who, not me, the families of the hostages in Israel, who are begging them constantly to adhere to the deal that they made with Hamas. And they're not doing that. It's pretty obvious that their interest isn't in getting the hostages back, it's in destroying this place. That's it.
Dr. Sidwal, thank you so much for joining us, and sorry for keeping you from your work. Good luck.